What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Kick-Ass Podcast. I hope you guys are having a stellar week so far. Today's show, I'm just going to hit on a couple of topics that have been going around that just kind of stood out to me, and a couple of videos that I've seen on YouTube that also stood out to me. I thought were pretty cool, and I just wanted to share with you guys. But hope you guys, like I said, have been having a great week so far over Thanksgiving, getting ready for Christmas, all that good shit. It's kind of crazy that this year is ending. In 2022 is less than a month away. It's kind of surreal. Like, it really doesn't feel like that at all to me. Maybe I'm in the minority there, but this year has, in a way, felt like it's been a year. But in a way, too, it feels like it's just kind of flown by. And I guess for me personally, like, so much has changed in my life this year. I don't know, it's kind of a weird feeling, guys, but we will get more into the new year when we get to the new year. So today, like I said, we're just going to touch on a couple things, and of course, preview tonight's AEW Dynamite, which to me kind of feels like a big deal. I don't know about you guys. Let me know what you guys think on Twitter, but it kind of feels like a go-home show in a way, and a go-home show, which of course is because Winter is Coming 2 is next Wednesday, but I don't know, guys, like this Long Island show and MJF Homecoming in a way feels like a big deal to me. And I don't know if it's just because lately, like, I've just been kind of like doing a lot of research and just kind of like going back and looking at some old MJF footage and matches and stuff from before AEW was even a company. So maybe I'm just kind of more biased, or maybe I don't know, but to me it just kind of feels like a big deal, and I hope that they start the show off with him tonight. You know what I mean? Normally they go straight with a Bryan Danielson match, which of course he hasn't. We'll get into later on, but part of me kind of hopes that they give MJF, I don't want to say the CM Punk treatment, but I'm very intrigued to see him start the show, right? For the pyro to go off, the opening credits, all that good stuff, and just that first chord with his music. And just, because for me personally, I think I'm more intrigued by having him start off, because obviously the fans are going to be super excited. That's when your energy is at its pretty much its peak, even if you have like a dark taping prior to that. But the first chords of his music, like, I just feel like I feel like Long Island is just gonna pretty much go crazy for him. I don't think he's gonna get booed at all. Like, I feel like they're just gonna just lose their mind for him, and not in the CM Punk way or to that level, but I think it's gonna be pretty massive. Like, I feel like this dude, like, he's earned it. Like, the one thing about MJF is he's never shit on Long Island, where he's from. Like, he shits on everywhere else in New York, which is fine, but he's never gone against his Long Island, his Plainview Long Island. Like, he's never gone against that. So I'm very intrigued, probably more so for this than anything else on the card, as crazy as that may sound, but just to see the reaction that he gets. And again, I probably we'll get more into this with the preview show, and didn't mean to spend too much time on this starting off, but this kind of leads me into my first topic as well. But dude, just like MJF, like, I can't wait to see it. But like I said, it leads me to one of the first things that I kind of wanted to touch on, and you guys may have already seen it. It is 3 years old at this point, but I was on YouTube just kind of browsing through, and I came across I'm pretty sure the name of it is just titled MJF Documentary. And it was by a dude called Kenny Johnson. And apparently he's done documentaries on, like, various other independent wrestlers at that time at their career, for like a Matt Riddle, and I believe there was a Keith Lee one that I saw a clip of. I haven't gone through his personal channel, just haven't had the time yet, but the MJF one was so just awesome. Like, it was 3 years ago, so obviously before AEW as well, but it showed the beginning and, like, the story of MJF. So the way that the documentary itself started off, it was just like pretty much any other documentary, right? Just showing the background and MJF himself, like, giving a rundown of his history, his family, where he came from, all that good shit. And it shows how his quote-unquote family home too, right? So it takes him through his house. He gives the tour of the living room, his bedroom, which not gonna lie, at first when I saw the bedroom, I was like, all right, this is kind of like odd, the whole MJF persona. Even 3 years ago, like his character has always been wealthy, right? Just rich beyond belief. He doesn't have to work for anything. He's been privileged, all that stuff. So when they showed him in his room, and it was just him and Kenny Johnson, but it was smaller, right? And he had one little like cork board or like a gold board, which and don't get me wrong, like the house itself was beautiful, like it was a very nice house, but what you would picture MJF's like childhood home from the way he hypes shit up is not that, right? So you would think, for instance, like you would think he's in like a what $1 million home, $700,000+ home, and this was probably like your mid 300,000-400,000s, which again, fucking beautiful, not shitting at all. I'm in an apartment, so hey, but not what you would expect for MJF, right? So that was the first thing that kind of like just like stood out to me. I was like, all right, whatever, it is what it is. And again, this is 3 years ago. Like I was still trying to get a feel for like the MJF character before AEW, and that's kind of why I sought out this video anyway. But whatever. So they show you that, and it was cool. Like they showed like a little Polaroid of him and CM Punk, and I think the other one was Randy Orton. Or no, I think it was Randy Orton, the other Polaroid, but. It was pretty cool, and like autographs and his goal board and everything like that, some goals he had already accomplished and whatnot. But around the 15 minute mark, it takes a twist. So it shows like pretty much like MJF is still kind of cocky up to that point, but more humbled, right? But around 15-minute mark of the video, it takes a complete twist. And I'm not going to spoil it for you because this wasn't some like elaborate and extravagant film, but I just thought it was so fucking well done, and I was not expecting that little twist. So I'm gonna leave my little review and just cut it off there. But just type in MJF Documentary on YouTube, and it's done by, like I said, Kenny, not Jenny, Kenny Johnson. And it was just so well done, the whole thing. And like I said, I think it was around 30 minutes in totality of it, but. Just if you have some time, whatever, just definitely make it a point to check that out. And I would say kind of check it out before tonight's show, before Dynamite. It's just kind of fun to see the history of MJF. And like I said, this was even before AEW was even a company. So it was just kind of cool to see he hasn't really changed, and he's been a piece of shit pretty much his entire existence. So I even saw a picture of the sign that his mom made for tonight's show, and I hope that they play that up somehow, because that they're obviously, if she made a sign, they're going to be with the fans somewhere. So as they were last time they were in New York for the Grand Slam show, I think it was that one. So but the the poster itself has a picture of MJF as a child, probably 5-6 years old. I'm horrible at guessing kids' age, so he could be 4, 3, I don't know, but he was a kid. And she wrote on it something to the effect of the last time my son wasn't an asshole, and it obviously has the picture of him as a child, so it's just fucking fantastic, right? And like, it's the dynamic that he has with his mom and his dad. Like, I don't know if you guys have heard interviews with him and that his mom has done in the past, separate, of course, but he just shit talks them. He's called his mom a slut before, which I don't even like saying. I just feel weird saying that, but his words, obviously. But it's just, they pull no punches, they give no fucks in that family, and it's fucking fantastic. And I wish that they had some type of reality show, right? Like, forget Roads to the Top or whatever, like, like the Friedmans would be, in my opinion, fantastic. Even if it was just something like a vlog that they did on YouTube, like, I just feel like there's just money sitting right there. So yeah, my personal opinion, but I came across that on YouTube and I just thought it was fucking fantastic again. So I'd share the knowledge, and I did share it on my Twitter as well. I'll share it on the show's Twitter page as well, which is, of course, at @kickashpodcast_. And my personal Twitter is at ASHMANNS. But I'll share it again once I release this show as well. But while we're on the YouTube topic, there was another one that I actually just watched earlier today, which was done by Ariel Helwani with Freddie Prinze Jr. And to be honest, I have no idea why I felt so intrigued to watch this video. I mean, I love, I'm not gonna say I love, but I'm a big fan of Ariel Helwani. He's a very good reporter. Like, he knows his shit. Obviously, a huge wrestling fan. So you automatically, me coming from the wrestling side, um, whenever, of course, because, like, maybe it's just for me personally, but, like, whenever wrestlers go out and do interviews, like, I'm kind of guarded just because a lot of the interviewers out there, they're just there to do a job, right? A lot of them will know WWF and not WWE current product. So it's just literally a job. But for dudes like Ariel, like, he is a fan of the product. He obviously watches it to this day. Like, he loves wrestling. So that kind of draws me more towards him as well. So I've kind of been diving more into his interviews lately as well. But like I said, he did one with Freddie Prinze, and again, not really sure why I felt so intrigued to watch it. But this one was about an hour in length. So if you have about maybe 2 hours today, I would set aside maybe some time and watch these two. Again, it was just really cool to kind of hear Ariel pretty much just pick Freddie's brain, right? And kind of go through his, I don't want to say his career history because it wasn't in depth like that, but and it was obviously more wrestling focused. But it was really cool to kind of hear and where he started from and career wise. So I obviously knew, right? And to be completely transparent, like, I wasn't like the biggest going into this video. Like, I wasn't well versed on Freddie Prinze, right? Like, I obviously knew he was an actor and of course a creative writer for WWE at some point and for a period of time, but I didn't really know much about him else. And of course, we all know who his wife is, but that was pretty much it. And this was just really like fascinating to me, like this whole video and hearing his kind of journey through like the wrestling world and where he started. So pretty much I'm gonna give like a brief rundown for you guys. Like I said, I definitely recommend checking it out because and check out the video too, like the YouTube like video and not like an audio if you can, because towards the end, which I guess I'll just give it away now, within like the last 5 to 10 minutes of the interview itself, he and Ariel, like, I forget exactly how the lucha masks got brought up. I think one of them had just referenced, like, they had one sitting to the side. And the other one was essentially like, dude, I got mine right over here in the drawer. So Ariel grabs his, and Freddie goes and grabs his. And they come back, and they just finish the interview in the masks. Like, fucking fantastic, yo. Like, it literally first of all, it made me realize that, shit, like, I don't have a lucha mask. And I don't know how I'm a wrestling fan and a collector and all that shit, and I don't have a mask. So I'm going to have to fix that. I don't know, but that was the first thing I realized. But it just, that alone just kind of like just made me even more of a fan of Freddie's, because dude is, I don't even know how old he is, but like, he's a big kid, and like and I will say like the number one thing that stood out to me throughout the whole interview itself was his passion and his love for wrestling and how much of a fan he is and his knowledge. He is not one of those celebrity actors, like celebrity entertainers who, you know, like I mentioned before with Ariel, liked wrestling when it was like quote unquote cool, right? When Austin and Rock and the Attitude Era was at its peak. He's been a wrestling fan pretty much throughout his whole life. And he has knowledge, like his callback knowledge and references is so poignant and just kind of stands out too. So just something about him, I guess and what I'm trying to get at, just kind of brings you in and just kind of is like a welcoming and just kind of a cool vibe. So of course, like if you're into wrestling and like video games and anime apparently and stuff like that, like he even mentioned like Dungeons and Dragons. So he's just like very versatile, which is honestly like I didn't really know, and it makes me want to go back and kind of like learn a little bit more about him and like his history and stuff like that, and just like his enjoyment. But he also has a podcast too, which I'm going to check out later today, probably after I wrap this up. Which is called Wrestling with Freddie, which is pretty fucking clever because if you break it down, it's obviously WWF, which is pretty cool. But like I said, I haven't personally listened to I think Ariel had mentioned there's only 2 episodes out right now. It obviously is pretty fresh. So it's not much that you would have to go back and get caught up on. But if you're a fan of Freddie Prinze, or you're just kind of intrigued on what he went through when he was a creative writer in WWE and what his plans are for the future and his kind of take on the wrestling world, like him and Ariel had mentioned, Ariel had asked him pretty much just the comparison between AEW and WWE at one point, and he asked him what he thought about AEW, and he made a really really good comparison, and the way he kind of said what he said here, it just kind of really stood out to me. So pretty much Freddie had said that, which, and none of this is groundbreaking, right? But the way he phrased it just kind of stood out to me. So he said that WWE is clearly overwritten, which, obvious. But he said AEW is underwritten, and it's more of a catch you if you fall type of design, I guess. And the way he just kind of broke that down, and the whole catch you if you fall type of verbiage was really intriguing to me. Like, it's so true. And again, it's nothing groundbreaking. It's nothing that I didn't know before I listened to his interview, but just the way he kind of encapsulated AEW's writing, and he's obviously not even involved. And it just, obviously, that kind of perspective just comes from someone who's been in that field, right? And in that perspective, rather. So it was cool, and he's so right. And he mentioned, too, that obviously, like, not everyone needs a writer. And that kind of reminded me of what Jon Moxley has said in one of his interviews. Like, he thinks that, like, a creative writer, for instance, is fucking stupid in wrestling. And that if you can't talk, then you shouldn't be in the business. Which, you know, is maybe, in my personal opinion, of course, being an outsider, that's probably majority true, you know? Like, for instance, like me, like, I don't think, like, I don't know, like, I think I would probably be one of those people who'd be best with, like, all right, give me bullet points, right? Like, give me, like, what my goal is, what we're working towards, and who I'm aiming it at, for instance. Something like a structure, like a narrative, right? And then go out there and I can maybe connect the dots. Where he said some people would need it written down word for word, like a Kurt Angle. You know, Kurt Angle has gone on record multiple times and said he needed a script and he would memorize that script word for word, which kudos to anyone who can do that shit, especially within, like, a limited amount of time. Like, it's not like you're getting a script and you have a whole week or something to study, right? Like, you're getting this probably sometimes a couple hours before you even have to go out there. So that's just amazing in and of itself. So, I don't know, just the whole catch if you fall type of like I said, phrasing that he gave to AEW's creative direction was really cool to me, and I didn't view that as a negative at all. If anything, that's a positive. And kind of what I was getting to there also was, like, I kind of believe he's right, you know? Like, it made me think of, like, maybe like a Jungle Boy. Like, you kind of wonder, like, if there was a quote-unquote, like, creative writer, would Jungle Boy, more in his earlier stages, have been on the mic more? And, you know, like, again, I don't know where I really fall, because I would need more knowledge of, for me personally, like, to be honest, like, I would need, I don't really like forming opinions unless I can actually, like, see it right in front of me, like, what it actually is. So I'm not going to sit there and say, like, oh yeah, Jungle Boy would have been so much better if he had a writer from the beginning, because in a way, like, I kind of like the vibe and the way just the transgression and the whole threading of AEW stories. And the progression that you see Jungle Boy taking, like, he obviously isn't maybe the most comfortable, but that's cool. Like, that's relatable for someone like me, for instance. Like, I couldn't even imagine going out there, especially at his age, like, going out there in front of millions of people, thousands of people in attendance right there, and just talking, you know? Like, I don't know, it's not as easy as it looks, and I think we sometimes just we kind of undersell it a lot too, like the strength and the confidence that it takes to go out there, which again shows, it kind of leads you right back to MJF too, which shows his brilliance at such a young age and his confidence. But just hearing the whole AEW WWE comparison creative wise from a writer was pretty interesting to me, and kind of a cool look. And I was very intrigued in hearing the story of how involved and how he was pretty much like one of the main forces behind Jeff Hardy winning the WWE title back in 2006, I believe it was, at Armageddon, in that triple threat match with him versus Edge and Triple H, and how adamant that Triple H was that he did not want Hardy to win the title at that time, because they didn't know if they could trust Jeff with his addiction issues at that time, and just the lack of stability, I guess, in Jeff's personal life, and what it would take to be the champion, right? Because Freddie framed it as Triple H is a company man first and foremost, which, again, like I said, guys, none of the information coming from this interview was groundbreaking or anything that we didn't know, but it was just a cool, another cool perspective and look at it, in my opinion. But he said that Triple H is obviously a company man, right? And he takes being the champion and the face of the company maybe too seriously, in his words, and he just holds it to a higher level than it just being a story. I guess I can say he, without quoting it word for word. And like, at the time, 2006, actually did not care. Like, I was all for Jeff, still love Jeff, obviously, but at this point, and of course, once you grow up, you learn more about addiction and the real world, right? But like, as a younger person at the time, like, I was just all about Jeff. Like, I didn't really, like, you heard rumblings, because of TMZs out there and news reportings and stuff like that. And, like, of course, like, when he would get arrested, you would find out, right? But to me, like, it just didn't, like, it was just, like, something that happened and it wasn't a problem. Whereas, obviously, growing as adults in that situation and someone like a Triple H who's in the business itself and knee deep in the business, at that point, he understood, right? And, like, I can't necessarily say he was wrong. And Freddie Prinze had even admitted that too. He was like, Triple H was pretty much right, like, he had mentioned that Jeff was released or fired, essentially, within that year. So, and of course, this isn't the history of Jeff Hardy, but, like, it's an example, and, and it's crazy, but Freddie had mentioned that him and Triple H just kind of really didn't see eye to eye after that, to say the least, but it's kind of fascinating, and I found myself kind of leaning more towards, like, a Triple H side in that. Like, as much as I love that moment, and I'm so happy it happened, but it's like, damn, if they really did fall on that sword, essentially, and say, no, Jeff is not winning the title until he can be proven, that he's, reliable, all that shit, but I don't fault Triple H for not wanting to do it and being so adamant to not put the title on him. So I'm kind of surprised at myself to even really, like, have that perspective. But looking back on it now, like, I totally see why Hunter wouldn't have wanted to do it and was so adamant about that and didn't really want to be involved. But I don't know, at the end of the day, for me personally, I think that Jeff obviously deserved it. I'm happy they pulled the trigger, but it was just kind of cool to hear another take on that as well. But he did kind of mention going back to the AEW part of it as well before I wrap this portion of it up with his interview. But he had mentioned that, of course, MJF and Punk is gold on the mic, right? Like, there's just no doubt about that, and no surprise there. But he had mentioned that he is pretty serious about starting a wrestling promotion in 2022. He mentioned that he had referenced it, a little towards, like, the middle, I believe, of the interview. But he kind of, without really giving all the ins and outs of it, because this is obviously still in the very, very beginning stages, but he mentioned that, he went to his accountant and it was like, yo, like, if I wanted to start up a wrestling promotion, like, what do I need to do? And he said his accountant pretty much told him, like, yo, you need to do A, B, and C. And that's what he's doing. And he said, essentially, like, A, B, and C is returning to acting and making movies, obviously, to finance his goals and to finance the promotion without, like, making his family struggle, which obviously wouldn't happen with his wife being Sarah Michelle Gellar and the mass fortune that they've accumulated even up until this point. But, and he even mentioned, he was like, it's not something that he wants to go and drop 50 mil on, and he's not looking to be another AEW or WWE. Like, he mentioned that he wants it to be, like, another independent promotion and just have, like, just be a creative area. And obviously, him being him, like, he would probably be the head of the creative area. But he also mentioned, too, which was a good sign, that he can't book. And he's not a booker, so he would definitely need help with that. But just the clarity to already see that and to know that he's not going to go in there and think that he can do everything since he worked for WWE and he is who he is, and just shit like that. It's a good vibe already. So, and he actually mentioned, too, that he was at one point going to be the creative writer and the creative force for Women of Wrestling. Wow. Before AJ Mendez had ended up coming in and taking that spot. So I'm not really sure. He didn't mention what changed or what transpired for the reason that he didn't, or if he did, I don't recall offhand, but that was an interesting little tidbit too. I wasn't aware of that, but just to think of him starting another wrestling, like an independent wrestling promotion over there in California, it's pretty cool. And again, it's just, I don't know, guys. It's just refreshing, and I just love seeing someone like. And of course, he's not like an A-list celebrity or anything like that, whatever you want to fucking call those people. But like name-wise, like he still has a name. Like he mentioned that he had, because I at one point I was sitting there thinking like, where did he even go? Like, like why did he stop, or like what had happened? And he had said that he stopped acting because of his family, right? He wanted to be a dad, and him and Sarah would have to take roles, pretty much just like opposite of each other's schedule. So like one would be filming, the other would be at home, and vice versa. So he had mentioned that that's pretty much why he stopped acting, and what pulled him away from WWE, because of their schedule is just a complete 180 from like your regular day-to-day life, which we all know. So, and he mentioned too, like he had said that they even tried looking out for him when he was still employed with WWE. They were like, yo, like we'll give you time so you don't, time off so you don't get burned out. And Freddie was like, no, I'm not going to get burned out. I'm not going to get burned out, which probably any of us would say, right? And he admitted, he was like, no, I got burned out. And that's essentially why he had to step away, and he stopped. But I don't know, guys. I like I said, I don't really know originally what brought me to this video and why I was so like drawn and intrigued to watch it. And I didn't even think, like at first, for whatever reason, I thought it was only going to be like a 10-minute video, and it was an hour video. And I watched the whole thing, so it was cool. If nothing else, it was just a nice little journey back to WWE in 2006, and he had a Stephanie McMahon story in there as well. So it was just kind of a cool little look back. And it'll be interesting to see if he does move forward with starting a wrestling company in 2022. And if he does, like, what that'll look like, how big it'll get, and just, obviously, just everything. Really quick before I wrap up with him, the other thing that stood out too, he had mentioned, and what kind of, like, sparked the whole wrestling promotion, this discussion in the interview itself, he had mentioned the releases, right? Ariel had asked him about the releases and what he thinks of them, and things of that nature. And he had mentioned Karrion Kross and Scarlett. He was like, that's your evil Macho Man and Elizabeth right there. And like, he's so right. Like, a lot of like journalists and like podcasters out there like didn't really like Karrion Kross, which is, to each their own. But to me, like, there's just a presence and an aura about that guy, like, and just something about him. So I don't know, like, and Keith Lee, that was the other one that he mentioned. He was like, those two guys right up there, like, you have so much substance in those two characters alone. And he was like, so that's what pretty much sparked him. He was like, instead of being sad, depressed, and all that stuff when he was hearing the news, he was like, he was fired up. And that's what, like, pretty much sparked him to be like, let's fucking go, and like, let's get a promotion started, and let's do this thing. And he had mentioned that Ariel could definitely be a part of like the broadcasting and shit like that too, which would be cool. Like I said, like Ariel, in my opinion at least, he brings a lot of credibility, and just with the seriousness that he takes his wrestling approach is pretty much the same approach that he does with like MMA and everything else. So you always get respect and kudos from me. And that, like a Pat McAfee, for instance, like Pat McAfee, I knew the name, but prior to him, like I knew he was a part of like the Colts at one point, but I didn't really know much about him. Like, he was, to me, it was just another former athlete, whatever, but who happened to be a fan of wrestling. But to see the passion and love and dedication that Pat put into his time in NXT, and just being, at first, just doing the preview shows and the kickoff shows, right? And then the dedication that he put in with Adam Cole, which seems like decades ago now, to now him being a commentator on SmackDown, right? Like, this dude is one of those dudes who doesn't need to be doing this. He doesn't need the money. And if nothing else, with everything else that's going on in his personal life, like, he probably should be home more, Like, I'm sure he would not like being home more, and the fact that he's still making those flights every week to go to SmackDown and then flying right back out to do his daily shows on YouTube and Sirius and all that shit. It's just, you like and you're drawn to those people more because the passion and the love and the respect that they put into something that you enjoy too. And it just kind of pulls over, like I'm saying, like with Pat, like I probably would have never branched out and watched the Pat McAfee show prior to Pat being involved in wrestling. And now, like, it's becoming like a staple, or I'm trying to incorporate it into my unfortunately not daily now with work, but I try to keep up on it and at least get the cliff notes and like his shit with Aaron Rodgers. Like I'm an Aaron Rodgers fan now. Like it's just cool to see how everything connects via wrestling and just how much your love for wrestling can transcend into other genres as well, and how it is kind of all intertwined in a way too. So I don't know, man. It's just another reason to me why wrestling is just so just fucking cool, right? And how it just really brings people together. And that Freddie Prinze Jr. interview was just really cool. So I definitely recommend checking that out. But now for the, I guess you would say, main event of the show, right? Probably the most exciting part for me for today's show in particular is the preview for AEW Dynamite tonight. And like I kind of led the show off with, and probably, like I said, spent too much time on MJF at the beginning of today's show, but I don't know, guys. I don't know why I'm just so pumped for tonight's show. I just have a really good feeling about it. I feel like there's so much positivity and vibes going into it. It's going to be cool to see the layout, and like I had mentioned on last week's show when I compared the ticket sales and the comparison between WWE being there for Raw last week and then, of course, AEW being there tonight in the same arena. It's going to be cool, and I'm sure there's not going to be anything different like stage or layout-wise, but it's just kind of fun to think how the paths are crossing already and just getting close. And I don't know, it's just kind of cool to me. But obviously with them being in Long Island and being MJF's essential homecoming, again, like I harped on in the beginning, part of me really hopes they open the show with MJF, even if it's not a whole promo or like a 15-minute segment. I don't even need that. Or you can even, since they're doing the Diamond Battle Royal, you can maybe even open the show off with that, have him, I don't know, there's just, for me, I hope that they open the show just because I feel like it may be a missed opportunity in a sense to see how truly passionate, either one way or another, that the Long Island fans and crowd are going to be for MJF, whether they cheer him passionately or boo him out of the fucking building. I kind of want all of their emotion to go directly to him right at the beginning. But if not, if they kind of hold off and hold him out to either the main event or like the crossover hour or anything like that, I would understand that too for business purposes, but me being the fan, like, I don't know, something about him opening the show be kick-ass to me. But in a way too, like I could totally see them sticking with Daniel Bryan, there I go, with Bryan Danielson opening the show against John Silver. Because also, John Silver's from Long Island, too. And if you kind of want to break it up and have one, I guess, quote, hometown hero open the show, to, of course, a lesser extent, but John Silver, everyone loves John Silver, right? So, with that, on top of him being in his hometown area as well, being against the Bryan Danielson, I could totally see them opening the show off with that, too, and kind of opening with a bang. That'd be pretty kick-ass, too, as I'm kind of talking this out. I could totally see Bryan opening the show with Silver and that pretty much getting the crowd pumped and kind of going, and that little bit of a jolt, and then maybe leading into MJF kind of around the 9 o'clock hour. But I don't know, I'm just super pumped for tonight's show, however they go about opening it. But as I kind of talk it out, guys, I can kind of see them going the Bryan Danielson, John Silver route to open it, which again would be cool. But that, of course, is one of our matches for tonight. And we also have the return in some sorts of the Young Bucks to Dynamite, at least, tag team action with the Young Bucks versus Chuck Taylor and Rocky Romero, which is Chaos. That match, I think, speaks for itself. There's really not much that I have to say to hype that up at all. And I love the involvement of Rocky Romero, right, in AEW, and how he's been involved, but not every week type of thing. He's not the, I just drew a blank, the Good Brothers. And he's not, is in the sense that he's not there just tagging along every week. So it kind of gives him a bigger, even if it's just a little, in my opinion, a bigger feeling when he is there. So, and of course, it's something that I see him probably being around more and more as the time goes on, especially with that Forbidden Door, which, again, I kind of cringe saying now because it's kind of overplayed in my opinion, and it's like, yeah, like, we get it, like, I'm kind of tired of hearing about the Forbidden Door, like, just it's open, like, we know, like, let's just move on. But since that damn door is open, like obviously he's gonna be hanging around much more. But right now he still kind of feels like a big deal to me. But I think this match is gonna be a good, fun match. I definitely obviously see the Young Bucks winning here. And to be clear, I don't think I gave a prediction match wise for Bryan Danielson versus John Silver, but I hate to say it. Johnny Hungy, it kind of goes without saying, but Brian's got this one, obviously. And yeah, with the Young Bucks and Chuck Taylor, I think that's kind of obvious as well. Young Bucks have got to take it, but it's cool, like I said, with AEW, right? Like, we go into it and knowing, like, those first two matches, for instance, are pretty obvious who the outcome is going to be, but the matches are going to be kick-ass and just so fun and energetic that's what you're looking forward to. And I think that's kind of what WWE has lost in a sense too. Like, yes, it's okay to be predictable, right? Like, predictability isn't necessarily a bad thing, but you have to have substance for that predictability. And that's where WWE has kind of dropped the ball, and where AEW took the ball and just ran with it. And that's, again, not going to get into another tangent, but AEW isn't doing anything groundbreaking if you really think about it. They're listening to the fans and pretty much following common sense. I mean, the whole Cody thing is a whole other story, but it's just amazing, like, what they're doing and all that. But again, like, Young Bucks totally got this one, but the match itself is going to be pretty kick-ass. The other match that they have announced is Jamie Hayter versus Riho, which this is kind of like in my opinion, just kind of geared to be more of a beatdown on Riho, right? And the whole idea going into this is just setting Riho up for failure and to get just a badass beatdown from Jamie Hayter. And I kind of hope that's how it goes in the beginning. I hope that the second the bell rings, that Hayter just runs right over Riho. And I think that's one of the advantages that you have. And not even saying Hayter's this huge, massive woman, right? But Riho is so tiny that you can stand her beside your average female and she looks tiny. And that's perfect for her. That's almost like a blessing in disguise in a way, because she's always going to be the underdog. She just gives you that sympathy right off the bat. Like, and you kind of in a way feel foolish for feeling sympathy because she's so badass and she's such a good worker, but it's like the perfect combination where you feel bad for her because, like, you just looking at her and just having her against like another dominant force, but the comeback, right? The comeback is what you wait for. So that's why I hope they start off the match and just having Hayter just fucking just run right through her, right? And just having pretty much dominate the match for, I would say, if you want to give it maybe like a 10, 12 minute totality, I would say maybe make Hayter dominant for 5-6 minutes, and then that's when you kind of get to like the middle part of the match, and then Riho, of course, she has her hope spots throughout the match, but then you have to have Britt get involved, right? Like, Britt obviously is going to be out there with Rebel Reba, and I think that's where the downfall is going to be. I think that Hayter is either going to get distracted or something's going to happen and it's going to backfire, and Riho's going to get the upper hand at that point, and I don't want to say steal a victory, but leave victorious, and that's going to cause more friction, right, between Jamie Hayter, that is, and Britt Baker, which would be a fun storyline leading to the future, which is kind of like a playoff and just a variation of Wardlow and MJF in a sense, you know? Wardlow was MJF's, and still is, MJF's heater, but there's been little moments where you're kind of questioning, you know, what the hell is going on, and that's kind of what's unraveling in a slower form with Hayter, and this is obviously the beginning stages of Hayter and Britt, so that could be fun, and I definitely see that kind of progressing here, but Riho's got to take the victory for this one, which will lead into Winner is Coming 2 for a title match against Britt Baker, which is next week already. Insane, but that'll be a fun match, which we'll get into more so next week, of course. So that leads us to the Dynamite Diamond Battle Royale, and this one is very difficult. Very difficult, and it's kind of what I was referring to earlier on. I think the placement of this match itself is going to maybe show its hand in a sense on who's gonna win, and it's interesting because first of all, we don't even know the whole field of entrants, right, for the Battle Royal. We know essentially Team Taz is going to be in there, probably a Ricky Starks, Will Hobbs. I don't know if you're going to involve Hook. I mean, I kind of be interested to see Hook do something at this point, right? Like, instead of just walking around eating chips every week. And if you're gonna send Hook in a fucking Battle Royal. So, send Hook. So, I don't know if it's gonna be all of Team Taz or whatnot, but, and then Dante Martin, of course, in there as well. And Leo Rush. So, that's pretty much the only competitors that we know for sure who are gonna be in there. But, and obviously with MJF since he's defending his ring, but this one is kind of up in the air, and I don't even know, truthfully, who really to go with. I'm going to probably end up going with who I want to win, but I don't know. And I think you may not, I think it's tough. So I'm just going to say I want MJF to win, right? I would love to see him three-peat this thing, and he's just braggadocious, right? And the whole ring has been built into his finishers and his stories, but I don't know if you guys have seen it. He recently had a new ring made. He purchased his own ring. It's nothing to the diamond effect of the ring he currently has from AEW, but it's like a solid gold ring, same style, like box style essentially. It has his initials on it, but that kind of like sparked my intrigue there. I was like, all right, well, this dude, he just bought a new ring. Again, it's not as big and bulky as the Dynamite ring, but let's say MJF loses this Battle Royale, right? He loses, so we think the ring isn't going to come into play going forward, and at least that weapon is taken away, so he doesn't have just, the upper hand, to, no pun intended, going into a match right off the bat. How about he loses the ring and then he goes into his trunks, let's say, against CM Punk whenever they end up having their epic one-on-one match. And instead of pulling out the Dynamite Diamond ring, he pulls out his new ring that he made. And I know it's not really that big of a deal and it's not really that, like, ooh, exciting. But it's just kind of another twist, in my opinion. Like, it's just something that unless you, I don't know. And this probably isn't even going to be a thing and I'm wasting time on it. But to me, like, him buying his own custom ring and him kind of showing it on social media, and I don't think that they mentioned it on TV, and if they did, I sorry I missed it, but I don't know, that's just, I feel like that could be a little Easter egg and just something that we're not expecting. And for the ring to have his initials on it, like, I just have that visualization that I can see him knocking the fuck out of CM Punk in that match, getting the 1-2-3 victory, and then just him showing the ring off at that point, just having him put his fist into the camera and just showing the MJF logo right there. It's just, I don't know, I think there's something with that, and could be way off, and that's way, way, way down the line regarding their match, but that's why I'm still kind of conflicted with this Battle Royale, like, I want him to win. He's in Long Island, and Tony Khan is good with having their hometown hero go over, right? But MJF isn't your average and your typical hometown hero. He's not really a hero. He's your hometown shitbag. So I don't know. And I think that's why I don't know, guys. Because part of me with Tony Khan being so, I want to please the fans, and him referencing in the past that he's made changes, based on crowd reactions and fan reactions. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, that's not my place to say, but part of me wouldn't be surprised if they maybe had MJF open the show, try to come out, him get attacked by Punk, because I'm sorry, if you sit there 1 week and say that you want to put my dog to sleep, give him the go to sleep, I'm gonna want to kick your ass, right? And I part of me doesn't know why Punk didn't just try to run right through Wardlow and not even not end up getting to MJF last week, but trying to, right? And just having more fire. I don't know, like, for me, like, and obviously, like, Punk fucking loves Larry. Like, Larry's everywhere. Larry's on a hoodie. Larry's on his stories. Larry's apparently backstage now. So, dude, like, if you say that shit about my dogs, like, I'm not gonna drop it, Like, to me, since I obviously don't have children, like, my dogs are my children, right? So if you say shit about my family, like, that's it, And I wouldn't just drop that just because a week has gone by. You know what I mean? So I feel like that would be a great moment, especially since MJF has interrupted Punk in Chicago now. I just think that if you have MJF open the show, his music hit, him start to walk down to the ring, get to the apron, pretty much the same way he did the Punk, have MJF standing on the apron, same, right near the ring steps, same post, same everything. Whether you want to hit Punk's music and have Punk come out, or just have Punk run down the ring, and and as I say that, it may be an issue of you not wanting to have them physically touch yet, which I totally get, but part of me would want to see Punk run down to the ring, try to ambush MJF, and then have Wardlow right there. That's when Wardlow catches Punk, because Punk is trying to jump over Wardlow to get to MJF. Wardlow and Punk kind of have their physical confrontation. Security comes out, all that shit. So we never hear anything from MJF. The fans just get that one initial pop to see, and that's kind of your gauge, right? So that kind of leads me on to the Battle Royale. You get that out of the way, you see, all right, the fans are going to just cream all over MJF and just love him and just be all for him, or they're going to fucking boo his brains out. And so that, in my opinion, can kind of determine how you have the final outcome for the Diamond Battle Royale. It's not like it's look, this Battle Royale is for a ring. Nothing else. It doesn't lead to a title shot. It's not anything else like that. You're not going to become a champion. You're just going to be the owner and the holder of this ring, which is a beautiful ring, don't get me wrong. But I'm saying that because you have a little bit more leeway, right? So you have Punk try to get involved and then it doesn't go through. So if the fans are all over MJF in a good way, you have him later come out and win the Battle Royale. And I don't know. I don't know how much catering you want to do, but I don't know. I just feel like you have something here and I just think this could be like a really star-making moment for MJF. And of course, the second they go there, I believe in Garland, Texas next week, the second they're out of New York, he's not going to get his hometown hero welcoming, as he shouldn't, because he's still a piece of shit. But I feel like tonight you just need to truly take advantage of it, and it could be fun to see Punk get booed in a way and to see what that looks like in an AEW environment. So I don't know, man. I don't know how this Battle Royale is going to play out, but I don't know. I kind of feel like MJF is going to I don't know. I'm going to put I guess my money on MJF retaining his ring and three-peating it. I see something there with a three-peat, and I don't know, I could be way off. Let me know what you guys think on Twitter, either for the official page, which is at kickashpodcast_. Just created it a couple weeks ago, maybe a week and a half ago, something like that. So definitely give that a follow, or you can reach me on my personal Twitter at ASHMANNS, and just let me know what you guys think. And I'm sure I'm going to try to do a review show. My schedule's kind of changed, so I'm still trying to get used to that and see where we go on a more consistent basis from here on out. But yeah, just let me know what you guys think, and hopefully we'll maybe do a review show of tonight's episode, either before Rampage, or maybe save it for like a weekend episode and kind of just regroup then on like a Saturday or Sunday. But we'll see, guys. Thank you so much for checking it out as always, and hope you guys have an awesome week and enjoy the show.